Welcome back to the further adventures of the monad. Today, we are going to talk about the concept of a self. What is a self, and why do we need such a structure to help us evolve our consciousness? I have mentioned on a number of occasions that our physical organism is not a principal body belonging to us. We didn't make it, and we don't keep it. This organic collection of matter functions the way it does because it is encased within a causal body. This may sound confusing at first, because I have stated previously that the causal body resides on the second triad. So how can it be encasing our organism? To understand why this is, you have to consider the concept of a self. What is a self? A self is an envelope that contains within it all the other envelopes that go to make up a functioning monad evolving through the cosmic physical plane. We are a first self. Why? Because we have a causal envelope that encompasses the first triad and is anchored in the second triad. Again, we have the vexing question: how can the causal envelope functioning on the second triad encase anything on the first triad? It does this by detaching a fraction of itself to encapsulate the mental, emotional, and etheric envelopes. This collection of Russian dolls then links to and envelops our physical organism. So, this detached portion of the causal envelope is what allows us to function as a human being. However, what is important to realize is that although we are presenting diagrammatically a causal envelope surrounding envelopes that only exist on the first triad, the lower causal body, as it is known, is actually made of tertiary matter. This matter can function on all the planes in our solar system, planes 43 to 49. What is being described still needs further clarification. Although tertiary matter can exist on the lowest 7 planes of matter, our lower causal body is composed from tertiary matter that exists on plane 47-3. This still places it on the second triad. The memories we bring with us to assist us in furthering our evolution are contained within elemental structures, which is secondary matter that itself is also resonating on plane 47-3. Nevertheless, this lower causal envelope is able to encapsulate the 3 envelopes of the first triad. This allows the monad to animate a physical organism and experience life in the lowest 3 subplanes of the universe. This has been a long-winded description to make a point that the first self is a series of envelopes encased within a causal envelope. We were given the gift of this causal envelope from our solar divas that allowed us to enter the 4th kingdom of nature and begin to acquire self-awareness. Okay, so I have said this is what the causal body achieves. But how does it achieve it? It does so precisely because it exists on the second triad and not on the first triad. Although we think of our physical body consisting of the lowest 3 subplanes of the 49th plane, gases, liquids, solids, in reality, our etheric, emotional, and mental envelopes dwelling on the first triad are functioning in the worlds or planes that make up the matter aspect of the total 9-fold triadic structure that the monad uses to evolve through the cosmic physical kingdom. When an incarnation ends, the monad withdraws its focus back into its higher causal body, located on the second triad, and this structure is permanent, existing between incarnations. The lower envelopes, mental, emotional, and etheric, are envelopes that are remade at the start of each incarnation. This means whatever secondary matter they contain, that constitutes the memories of an incarnation are lost. Those memories are not lost, but we will get to that later. If the causal body is not lost, the human monad now has the ability to store up memories and knowledge, and then activate this knowledge by using it constructively back on the lowest three planes of matter. In this way, it gains wisdom and evolves. All this is made possible because the monad has a semi-permanent causal body. I say semi-permanent because one day this envelope is dissolved. But that is a story for another day. We have magnificent structures called a causal envelope, and this defines us as the first self. Because it exists, we gain an awareness of ourselves as individual monads. This is a level of awareness we did not possess in any of the three lower kingdoms of nature. But are you aware of this self? The sad reality is that you are not. You are aware of your persona, the person you think you are now. This personality, this ego, expresses characteristics that have been teleported out of the higher causal body and are the skills and abilities that you have come into incarnation to refine further. You, however, are not aware of the other 95% of your skills and abilities that constitute your state of evolution, up until this point in your journey through the cosmos. It is the totality of all your experiences that go to make up your first self. You are on a journey, but at the moment you are not in charge. Your guardian angel is. Effectively, it is deputizing as your first self until you can move the focus of your consciousness into your 47-1 permanent atom located in your higher causal envelope. Even when you achieve this monumental feat, which is known as the I3, you are not actually conscious in your 47-1 permanent atom. As I have mentioned previously, atomic consciousness is not achieved by a monad until it takes the I4 and migrates its consciousness into the 46-1 permanent atom. It has now left the human kingdom altogether. The monad, being located in the 47-1 permanent atom, is afforded objective consciousness on one of the two molecular subplanes found in the higher causal body. This is a really big deal for the following reasons. When your monad is focused in any of the lower two permanent atoms, or one permanent molecule, it is either unconscious or subjectively conscious on all the planes above it. This means when an incarnation ends and all the lower envelopes found on the first triad are dissolved, the monad loses consciousness. It may be asleep in its higher causal body, surrounded by all the knowledge and wisdom it has gained so far, but it will not be aware of itself until it enters incarnation again. It then regains its focus on the molecular subplane it was focused on during its last incarnation. The gift of the causal body has meant that what was gained from an incarnation has not been lost, but what was learnt may not be made available to the monad during its subsequent incarnations. The decision of what is going to constitute the baggage of the persona is decided by your guardian angel. You have an input into what is packed into your travel case, but this only happens in the later stages of a monad's passage through the fourth kingdom of nature. This brings us to the title of this presentation, which is the first self. What exactly is the first self? From a matter perspective, a first self is the material causal envelope that survives an incarnation and holds the memories of all the previous incarnations. From a consciousness point of view, the first self is the solar diva who provided the monad with its causal envelope. It has been patiently guiding the evolution of the monad through the human kingdom. The self contains several envelopes encased within a master envelope. What distinguishes the master envelope from those that reside within it is that this envelope has a continuity of function beyond the existence of the triad that it encompasses. So, when an incarnation ends, the first triad dissolves, but the second triad does not. So any structure rooted here remains functional between incarnations. The same is the case for the second self, which is rooted on the third triad. There comes a time in the evolution of the globe we live on to finish its incarnation. When it does, the second triad of the globe dissolves. Our second triad is contained within its larger structure. So when it goes, we go with it. Therefore, monads evolving in this triad need to store their gains somewhere. This is done in an envelope that is provided for them by another mighty diva, known as a protogonos. This again is a story for another day. Thank you.